Hi, it's Anne. Thanks for stopping by. So I don't mind telling you, I'm a little bit nervous about today's video. I have been doing a lot of practicing, and I'm not really certain that I have the technique right. But so please don't think of this as a tutorial. This is more of a demonstration of my experiment. What I'm going to be doing is inspired by one of my lovely viewers and subscribers named Marcia in Brazil. Marcia is so lovely. She always leaves such positive and encouraging comments, and I see her comment on other people's videos as well. So she's just a really, really lovely member of our Junk Journal YouTube community. And she made mention of a technique, I think this was a couple of months ago, where you could take soap and water and a sponge and mix it with, I believe she said, PVA ink, and get an interesting technique for a background paper. I did not have any PVA ink. In fact, I didn't even know what it was. I looked it up, and the only, at least in the US, only even marginally something related to craft supplies that I could find that was called PVA ink had something to do with 3D printing. So maybe it's a paint or a coloring agent that is known by something different in the US. I don't know. But I just use paint. I just use some of my regular acrylic paint and the sponge and the soap, and came up with, can you see those little bubbles? It's subtle, but I think you can see it. I hope my camera doesn't blur it out too much. It's pretty. It's very, very pretty. I am not certain if this is what Marcia had in mind when she suggested it, but she certainly inspired my experimentation. So while I had the soap out, I decided to try another technique that I had been wanting to try for a while. This is all over YouTube, but this is blowing bubbles. You know, blowing bubbles with diluted ink or diluted paint or diluted coffee. Barbara from 49 Dragonflies, a year or maybe a couple, maybe it was longer ago than that, I'll put a link in the description box, had a really, really good tutorial where she tried out different techniques, blowing bubbles using a straw. And so anyway, I just want to get started with this. 2 different ways to get some interesting background paper with soap as one of our printing agents. I'm going to cover up my desktop and I'll be right back because it's going to get messy here. And let's mix up this potion. I keep hitting my ring light there. Sorry about that. I'm going to use acrylic paint. I think I'm going to use this lime green, and then if we add a second color, we'll go back to this sky blue. And I'm going to put on a glove. Not that I mind getting my hands inky, but I don't. If I'm turning my phone off and on, I want to keep at least one layer between me and the paint. I've got a sponge. This is just an ordinary cellulose kitchen sponge. For the soap, I used ordinary dish soap, but I also had some little bottles of little kids blowing bubbles. Let me kind of pry this off. For some reason, I had a whole box of these. It must have been for one of Barney's birthday parties or something years ago, but I had a whole bunch of these, like they're like little party favors. So they're these little, well, okay, not all that good for blowing, but I thought I might use the liquid as some of the soap, because I somehow was thinking that blowing bubbles might make our paint solution a little more lathery. Let's just go ahead and get to it, because I'm not going to make it any easier by putting it off. Now I looked up several different several different demonstrations, and I didn't see anything exactly like this before. So I'm kind of going on instinct here. This lime green, and I'm going to put it in this corner of this plate because the solution is going to kind of puddle in that area. And let's put some of this bubble soap in there. And I don't think the amount matters too much, but as I was practicing with it, I did find that the more water I added, the sudsier the solution became. So I'm going to, whoa, and I do have some rags here handy, and I have a plastic tablecloth over my work surface. So I'm just going to spray. You know what? I'm going to need more than I can spray. There we go. And I can add more. And let's just use this little chopstick to kind of mix that up. Again, I know I'm not going to be doing justice to Marcia's suggestion, so I hope that she will enlighten us on ways that we can all improve on this. My sponge is damp, and I'm just going to put it right in there, and then I'm going to start squishing because I want to create the bubbles. I want to lather it up. There, I'm getting some green suds. And let me pull out. There's a book page that has a little bit of gesso on it. I want to try a couple of different surfaces because the paint and soap solution absorbs differently into different kinds of paper. That is a book page with gesso treating the surface. And here's just a piece of drawing paper here. I'm going to go back and just kind of suds that up. And I think these could, these are going to take a while to dry because there is a lot of moisture in here. So this is going to be a video we're going to sort of do in stages. What I have done here is I've left, you know, these little mountains of foam. I've left those there because I want to see what they look like when they dissolve. This paper is fairly thin, so it looks a little weird right now, but I think it's going to look better when it dries. Do I have much color in there? Let me just kind of add a few more little mountains of foam here. A little paint goober there. So I'm just going to add some bubbly mixture, and maybe I'll squeeze out some more suds. I have a plastic surface on the floor next to me. And maybe, here's another one that I did earlier. This one I feel did not come out that great, but it's all the blue color. So I think because it is so pale, let me see what this is going to be like to add some more of our green. This is pretty pastel. So we're just going to see how that comes out. The mystery is in the waiting here, friends. And my hope is that some of these bubbles will will remain somewhat defined and will show up in the final analysis. But I'm going to set this aside, and then let's get to our other technique, and then we'll set everything aside. I'll pause the video and we'll come back in a bit. So hold on for right now, and I'm going to set this aside, and we're going to go to our other technique. This other one isn't quite as messy on the hands, but it is messy in the immediate area. So I have on the old sweatshirt today. Not that that's anything unusual. Okay, for this one, this is the bubble blowing technique, and I'm going to use, I just had some yogurt a little bit ago. I saved the cup so that I could use it for this project. I've used it with paint as the coloring medium. I've also used some Distress Oxide spray, but I think what I would like to do today is to try it with coffee. I've not tried it with coffee before, but the video that I saw from Barbara at 49 Dragonflies, she used coffee, and I thought that's just a good cheap coloring medium. So let me put a little bit of my instant coffee in here. Oh, wouldn't want to drink this stuff. I love coffee, but this stuff is fabulous for dyeing paper, not so great for drinking. And I guess I will put in some soap next. I have more of this. I tried it also with, why did I seal it up? I should have just left it open. I know it's sealed well, that's for sure. There we go. All right. Put quite a bit of soap in here. Barbara didn't do any measuring, so I'm not either. And let me pour some water in there, and then I'll stir it up. But anyway, the messiness from this one comes from the little spatter that goes all around. So let's see how this is going to work. My water wasn't hot, obviously, but I think that coffee is going to dissolve nicely in here. I will be careful not to let this sit around. My dear husband, Dan, I am guilty of often drinking half a cup of coffee and then letting it sit around unconsumed. And Dan very frequently drinks my half-finished cups of coffee after heating them up. I will make certain that this is clearly identified as a craft supply and not drinkable coffee, because, oh, he would be sick. That wouldn't be great. All right, I did have 2 plastic straws in the house. I mean, we don't really do plastic straws anymore, do we? And we really shouldn't, but, you know, they are nice for this. If you happen to have disposable straws, you know, like this one, I know that looks like it needs a wash. Anyway, so something like that would certainly work out well too. That was kind of gross, but anyway, now here is this straw, and I'm going to do that bubbling sound that if you did this in your milk when you were a kid, your parents probably told you to stop it. So because it's a little bit of a strange sound, but let's go ahead and blow this. Be careful to blow in and not to blow into the thing and not suck the soapy mixture up. Now I'm going to dip my paper into it. I don't have confidence that has a lot of pigment in it, so I'm going to add a little more coffee. go. And I'm going to keep my papers for dipping into it a little more handy. This is a plain book page again that has gesso on it. This is just a plain fly leaf. And I have a couple of Rolodex cards also. So let's just try all of those because those are sort of handy. So hopefully I'll get a little more of a brown color out of this. But let's just go back to this because I know I'm fine with it being kind of faint, but let's see. Yeah, it looks like it has a little more brown. It'll show up much better once it's dry. Maybe we can try scooping it off. How about that? That's kind of fun to watch. Let's do just a little bit more. I hope the sound isn't too obnoxious. It's kind of fun, but it does kind of make you look around and go, I hope nobody is bothered by the slurpy sound. I think one reason this is a popular craft for children's painting activities is because they have free license to make that slurpy sound. Let's do the book page, the plain book page. I'm going to set this aside and we'll take a look at it again later. Looks like that could have something interesting come out of it. It is fun to do. There we go. There's another one that looks like it could have some. I'm just going to kind of dip that in and put some of the smaller bubbles in those corners. And we'll just see. I think this could be fun for a the background of a tag, to do some collaging around. It's sort of an interesting, shadowy, kind of a sciencey looking kind of background, isn't it? And they're both going to be very different. Let's do paint. Should we do paint? I'm going to set this aside. And I am almost out of this, so I'm going to use some of my dish soap. Let's use some blue. How about that? And I'm going to put just a little bit of blue in another yogurt cup. And add some water. And then add some soap. This is inexpensive dish soap. And I'm just going to use the straw to mix that up. And what I'm going to have ready to put in here are my Rolodex cards, because those are really nice for small tuck-ins. Okay, set my coffee solution aside, and let's bubble this up. Kind of have to grab things quickly before the bubbles evaporate. Well, they don't, hardly got any on that one. Yeah, that barely showed up. Let me add a little more blue. The yogurt cup is a nice size for this, because the steep sides of the cup kind of support the buildup of the bubbles, rather than, you know, if I were doing it in like this flat plastic plate. All right, give it another blow. It's a little bit better. A great I have this big enormous bubble that is that thing is not popping. Doggone it. You are can you see this bubble? Let me see if I can break it from the other side. I did not swallow it. I think I breathed in some of that bubble spray. Oh my golly. Okay. That is not something I would want to be doing all the time. I'm ready to give it one more go, but boy, that is weird. Perhaps the chemists among us, like my sister Karen, can talk about what's happening here. Yeah, not feeling great about that, but you know what? I think I'm going to go back to my coffee solution, and the little bit of blue that I have here, I think I'm going to try adding some coffee stains to, and then we'll just kind of see how it looks. And this was with the blowing bubbles solution rather than the dish soap. Ooh. Now that's something I could get behind. Did you see how this one just popped? Yeah, I'm feeling kind of good about that. Let me try one more item. Yeah, this is a gessoed book page. I think I'm going to tear this in half. And we'll see how this works. This is the coffee solution. Now that gessoed surface seems to pick up a bit of definition around the edges of those bubbles, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm kind of enjoying, you know, and it stands to reason that the surface treatment of whatever your paper is going to inform. Oh, can you see that? This is science. But there's still a little bit of definition, a little bit of coffee there from where the larger bubbles were. Wow, that's pretty cool. I'm hoping that's showing up on camera. I don't want to disturb it by lifting it up to be closer to you. We might be losing the magic as those bubbles pop, but I think it's all a factor of what the surface was. I thought the gesso might have enough tooth that the bubbles would stay in place longer, but maybe the tooth is actually popping the bubbles. I don't know. Well, that was exciting. I'm going to set this aside, and I'm going to just kind of let all of these things dry. I might add a second layer or two, and then I'm going to clean up here, and we're going to come back and look at them. And good, so hang on. I'll see you in a second. Well, what a difference some drying time makes. Here's a look at some of our papers from what is now yesterday, because I did let them dry overnight. Look at those beautiful bubbles. Here is one of our sponge painted pieces. I believe this was the one I think that was blue already, and then we added the green. I think this was the one that had the big mounds of the suds on it. And the bubbles are subtle. They show up more in the blue than they did in the green, but there is a little bit of combination there. I think these are so, so pretty. I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous doing them because I wanted them as a salute to our dear viewer Marcia. I wanted them to turn out just great, and I think that there's so much subtlety in here. This piece I'm going to fold in half, and I'm going to stitch this in a signature. In fact, I may make more. I think that's just going to make a beautiful journal page. We could write directly on it. We could put other things on it, but I just want to keep this beautiful sponging just as it is in a future journal. Here is a piece that I did. This is some of the blown bubbles, and I've taken this already and put it around a piece of hanging file folder, and we're going to make a tag out of this right now. Let's just go ahead and do it, because I want you to see how some of these things look in action as they're ready to put into journals. I made a little cluster here. It's not exactly a cluster, I guess. It's a little collage out of some things that I cut out of I think these were all things out of the Daphne's Diary that I recently got at the thrift store. And then this is one of Tina's digitals, one of the few kinds of digitals that I use. But I'm going to go ahead and put this down so you can see how beautiful it's going to look just with this as a tag. Now, I know I'm going to be covering up this portion, which is too bad, but isn't that the way with collage? We always have to cover things up, but we somehow get the full essence of what is going on. And I think the energy of these bubbles is going to shine through. Move that down just a little bit. I put a few little, what are these things called? Liquid pearls. I put a few little drops of those, and I did make this yesterday, so it's fully dry. I always worry when I put liquid pearls or Nouveau drops on things that I'm going to set something else on top of it, because I often do that. What should we put at the top? I have a lot of this lace around that I've been using lately, but I think that might be kind of nice. These bubbles, look how much they show through underneath there. Let's just get this one done, because I have a few others I want to do as well. No, I don't. Oh, there's I cleared off my desk so much so that I could do the paint spattering, the wet, messy paint portion yesterday, that now my desk is cleaner than it usually is. And let's get that. There we are. I'll put a backing on it later. Whoops. Well, it looks like my staple got a little gummed up there, but you can see where I'm going with that. Look at that intriguing, that just beautiful, beautiful background paper. This is from the blown bubbles. Let's do, and you've seen this sponge painted. Here's another sponge paint piece, and I pulled out this little, a little bird that I had die cut in some, I actually took some music paper and did a few bubble, a little bubble printing on it. You can see it a little bit with this, but it's not great on the music paper, so I don't think I would really recommend it. Why don't I go ahead and create this little journal card out of that piece so you can see that in action. And we won't go on too much longer, but it's fun to not just have these things stacked up in the corner or forgotten in a drawer when we have our background papers. We need to use them. It's funny, there is a little bit of a different texture that happens when we put these paints in. Well, I could not have gotten that any more crooked, could I? I'd be better off just doing it by hand. There we go. Yeah, I have a nice, like a little zippered pouch that I have a lot of background papers in. And it's handy just to reach in there, but I just didn't want these to take up permanent or even temporary residence in that pouch. They need to go into a journal. Looks like I didn't leave a whole lot of extra room here, but there's going to be enough to fold over. Oh, good. I still got some of those little tear out holes showing there. I wanted that. And even for these little bits that I tear off, these are going to be great for collage. So they will not go into the bin. So I'm eager to hear from Marcia if she has any additional tips for us to either take these papers in a different direction or improve on the results. I'm very happy with them. I was nervous about starting these, as I think I have mentioned, but they are intriguing. You know, even this one. You know, there's just a few little bubbles that are there, and I think whoever, you know, whether it's me or somebody else who's using some of these pieces in a journal, they're going to get a sense of something interesting happening back here. You know, I think it's the unpredictability of the bubbles that I really like. With this one, I sort of wanted to repeat the circular pattern, even though the bubbles are nearly indistinguishable on these music pages. The shapes of the little circles are going to somehow repeat this idea of the bubbles. I hope they will anyway. We're just going to do a few here. This is just a little stamped image that I die cut and watercolored in. It's been sitting in one of the Bits and Bobs boxes on my desk for quite a long time. This down just a little bit. I guess I did double thickness on these music pages. And then Let's do just a little bit of stamping here. I'm using Stays On because since there was paint in here, that's going to give a little bit of a, that painty surface can be a little, almost like a polymer or plasticized type of surface treatment. And I think the Stays On has a little bit better chance of success there. So there's one that is indeed beautiful. You know what? It needs rounding corners though, doesn't it? And again, in my quest to clean my desktop, my corner rounder has gone missing, so I will find that later. In the meantime, let's get to another little make here. Oh, I'm loving these. This one I thought looked very beachy. And I just like with this one, and certainly with the one that we folded, this one, I think adding the second color really helps to just add to the intrigue of all this. So I thought I'd make a pocket out of this with a little bit of a beach theme, and so I can save most of it, or at least the portion up here. I'm going to tear this off. And I've got a little bit of something dark. That might be a little bit of coffee. And I think I'm going to fold over the edges as long as we have them there, and have them be a bit of a gusset. There we are. Fold this over for the edge, the top of the pocket. And these will just fold in to form the gussets, and I'll trim those down just a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be all ready to glue in. Now, because of this beachy theme that I have here, I found in my bits and bobs some sort of little thing that says the beach. So it looks like if I collage a few things on top here, I'm going to cover up that little splotchy thing anyway. I got out just a little piece of coffee dyed gauze that kind of looks like some sort of netting that would be appropriate at the beach. And I'm just going to glue a few little thingies down here. I have a shell that came out of a magazine, and this little thing. And I found this kind of weird egg. I thought somehow that looked like something that you might find in a ground nest at the beach. Let me go ahead and use my 3-in-1 glue to get this fibrous stuff here. Well, come on. It's a little chilly this morning. My basement is not really warmed up yet. I keep it fairly cool anyway, but I think the glue has not exactly seized up, but it's not as pliable as it might be otherwise. There we go. And I want this sort of, yes, I'm going to glue the whole little beach tag down. Again, using the 3-in-1 glue because that's what adheres to a fibrous background. But don't these bubbles, don't they give a nice sort of a watery, beachy kind of feel? This might stick up a little bit on the edges, but I'm really okay with that. I'm thinking I kind of like the shell to go underneath our netting. So because it's very thin paper, I'm going to use just my glue stick and kind of slide it under there. Something that you might find tucked underneath something at the beach. And what a nice addition this is going to be for a summer journal. Well, the beach certainly here on the our Oregon coast beaches are beautiful year-round if you can handle the wind. I know many people who have dogs love to take their dogs to the beach in the winter because they're a little less crowded. And you bundle up and you enjoy. There we go. Isn't that a pretty pocket? Of course it needs to be inked. Yes. Oh, what definition that adds. So that really makes it pop, and we can still see our bubbles everywhere. So there we have it, friends. I really want to thank Marcia for bringing up this idea. I love suggestions from viewers, and I hope she will join in the comments and tell us of how we can take this in different directions. If she has anything additional to add, I'm just grateful that she suggested it because it really got me thinking about how to use soap and paint and water together to make some really interesting and intriguing background papers for our journals. Thank you, Marcia, and thanks to all of you for watching. We'll talk to you soon.